How's the Detroit Sports Podcast going?
This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
You guys keep up the good work, man. Podcasts are the way of the future.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the DocNJock podcast. I am the Doc, John McEnroe. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz? Looking forward to this podcast recording. We're going to break down the NCAA tournament, some news and notes regarding the Red Wings, Tigers, Pistons, a hodgepodge of great information, entertainment, and great Detroit sports banter. I'm looking forward to it.
What the hell is Vito doing in here? Like, this microphone is so low. I've got this thing basically turned straight up so I could talk into it. I probably should have checked that before I sat down. It's not very radio professional of me. Whatever. Anyways.
Well, what I like about it is I know in different podcast setups, some people have the stand and stuff like that. I'd always be banging into it. I'd walk into it sometimes. I like the mic stand a lot better in terms of a setup. And so some people have asked me, oh, okay, how come you don't have the swinging thing? And I'm like, look, if you ask me to, bolt it into this table, the first time a guest would do it, it'd just rip right off. And, so the stand is so much easier, so much cleaner. We can play with it.
There's so many of us that use this location for recording our podcast too.
Yeah.
This is totally customizable for whoever.
User friendly, right?
Like me and Vito are, Vito's half the size of me. Legitimately, right? Like, I'm not, I don't know how, I'm 5'8", right? How tall is Vito?
4'11", maybe.
Okay, cool. So Vito's a little bit more than half the size of me. We're just different sizes, right? So it needs to be a little bit lower for him. It needs to be a little bit higher for me. This is perfect. Plus, I like the microphone. I like to almost eat my microphone. It's kind of gross. I have it as close to my face as possible without my mustache or my beard touching the actual foam windscreen protector on the mic. So it's what it is. Anyways, March Madness around the corner.
Who's the happy guy sitting across from you?
Well, are you that happy? This is why I want to start this podcast, okay? So, off the heels of Michigan State jail sexing Michigan for not the first time, not the second time, but the third time, Michigan State jail sexes Michigan again, all right, for the Big Ten championship. So, I'm assuming you're ecstatic, right? But the Big Ten is so stupid that they have this game go right up until CBS has to go live to present where everybody's going to be seated. So Michigan State draws Duke. They draw the number 1 overall seed, which makes no sense to me. I was watching this and I was like, how the hell are you going to give Michigan State Duke? How are you going to put them in Duke's bracket? On top of that, we'll get around to it. I was floored. Michigan was the number 2 seed. Absolutely floored by it. I don't understand the logic there. But as a Spartan, you go from having the highest of highs, just beating your rival for the Big Ten championship, to then finding out that you are in the Road Dogs, the number 1 team's bracket, and that's Duke with a healthy Zion Williamson. Good luck.
Well, I want to start with this because obviously, you're trying to bait me here into getting
I'm not
angry.
baiting you.
No, I'm definitely upset because I feel like the NCAA committee.
Upset for you.
The NCAA committee did a great job with this bracket. It's a great job with one mistake. Literally, one mistake was made. You could have flipped basically one spot with Michigan State, and we'll talk about that. But first, let me talk about my excitement of the fact that you just blew over a great weekend, and one in which, you know what? In terms of my life, I definitely underestimated. You know what? I'm now a brand new fan of St. Patrick's Day. Now I have a great memory tied to a day that's, full of green beer, corned beef, and then it was the final of the Big Ten tournament, Michigan State, Michigan, the third go around, and the drama that surrounded it set the scene. Michigan everybody was talking, oh yeah, they're not going to lose for 3 times in a row. Michigan State's scared. What does this mean? We'll finally even it up. We'll get ourselves a trophy on the backs of Michigan State. And they started the game off great. Iggy is blowing kisses to the world, making the money sign, thinking he's hot shit as a youngster. And then all of a sudden, Michigan State unfortunately suffered an injury to one of their great players. Kyle Ahrens just struggled.
Okay, hold on. Pump the brakes on great player.
Listen, he has emerged as a guy that's a good role player.
Yeah, role player. He's a good player.
And when you make it to Michigan State, you're great. And that's the way I'm going to put it.
Get the hell out of here.
So he gets injured. Everyone thinks he broke his leg.
I love how you bloviate. Great player.
He gets injured, and everyone's thinking, oh, no, man, there's a situation. Maybe he broke his ankle. There's a big problem. He leaves the court. McQuaid gives him that hug, and I'm like, okay, there's a chance. Right away, he hits a 3, and I knew once the halftime report came out where they say they came out and said Kyle Ahrens did not break his leg. The x-rays came back negative. I'm like, there's a perfect scenario. There's a chance he's going to come back into this game. And I'm like, this is perfect. I should have tweeted out, when he comes back, Michigan State's going to go on a run. But like in any contest, Michigan is so dangerous because they can get hot from anywhere. Livers makes the 3-point shot look easy. Jordan Poole can hit the 3. Michigan, after some timeouts, got wise and went inside a couple possessions to make it.
They figured out how to do that, huh?
Exactly. But then Kyle Ahrens returns, and the momentum just swung. Michigan State's defense clamped down, and for the 3rd straight game, Michigan's offense bogged down.
He returned to the sideline.
He returned to the sideline, did not play. Yeah, he had a massive boot on, but he was cheering on his guys, and Michigan State eventually wins the game 65-60. We win the trifecta, baby. No better way for a Spartan fan to enjoy a championship than to just be the outright best team in the Big Ten for this season. I'll always have that memory. St. Patrick's Day, celebrating my birthday. I wasn't hungover. I had the best, longest, probably 3-hour buzz of my life on Saturday night. I woke up Sunday feeling like, dude, let's do this again. Had a couple drinks, felt good. I'm like, all right. I finally drank professionally, where I had a long-ass buzz, not over the top, not sloppy, felt good. Going into Sunday, St. Patrick's Day was awesome, and I got to enjoy it for 30 minutes. And that was it, because 6 o'clock, the game ends, and they start going through the bracket, and we're like, fuck, no. Everybody that saw that was like, what the fuck? How's that happen? How's Michigan State a 2 seed? Well, the reason I think that I'm mad is that the committee just bold-faced lied and comes out and says that, oh, the victory that you guys had over Michigan, a top 10 team, 3 times when we defeated them, meant something. No, that's not what happened. The bracket was set. And they had, by the time the Michigan State game was done, it was all set. There was no...
This bracket was set up by 4 o'clock on Sunday.
Exactly. It was set.
Maybe earlier.
And it was put together, and it would have... I don't think it would have behooved Michigan State to even lose on Friday of the tournament. It just sucks because based on merit, a team that wins the regular season title, then goes on and plays 3 games in 3 days, and defeats a top 10 team in the final... doesn't earn a 1 seed over a Gonzaga or a Virginia. I would have been happy if Michigan State would have been a 1 seed versus Virginia, over Virginia. I would have been happy with that. I felt like Michigan State merited a 1 seed based upon the schedule that they had, what they've done, winning. I think for me, I don't like that there's no value in an accomplishment that we just witnessed. There was no value in it. There's nothing really inherently great about winning the Big Ten tournament title over a top 10 team when you're still slotted in as a 2 seed and then facing the overall best team in the tournament.
Well, if you can explain to me how Virginia gets a 1 seed and how Gonzaga gets a 1 seed, right? Like, I understand North Carolina, all right? I get that. If you want to make the argument for North Carolina, I'm fine. I'll hear it. But you can't tell me Virginia deserves to be a number 1 seed, and you can't tell me that Gonzaga deserves to be a number 1 seed. Gonzaga lost to St. Mary, okay? On top of that, they're in a putrid conference. It's putrid. It's horrible, all right? No wonder you can go, 30-3? No kidding. No kidding. I get it, right? Because you're going up against Sisters of the Poor. And then you look at Virginia, and yeah, for a stretch there, right? Virginia this season was one of the best teams in basketball. But you end up having losses to teams like North Carolina and to Duke, and you end up losing to who I think they lost to. Who did they lose to in the ACC tournament? Was it North Carolina? They didn't lose North Carolina, but they end up suffering a loss in the ACC tournament. There's no way. If you got to the final game, all right, and you went up against Duke, who is by all accounts the very best team in all of basketball this year, and you lose to them, I can understand you warranting consideration for a 1 seed. That's North Carolina. I get that. On top of that, North Carolina gets credit for beating Duke twice. Now, I get it. Zion Williamson wasn't there for both those games. I understand it. But still, North Carolina took care of business against Duke. What did Virginia do? What has Virginia done? Absolutely nothing.
And it would have also provided Michigan State something that Tom Izzo probably valued a lot more than, the placement in the bracket. It would have been an opportunity to play on Friday. Virginia opens up as a 1 seed, plays on Friday. Michigan State grinded. It would have behooved them to have an opportunity to get a little bit more rest, one more day. And if you want a tournament with the best players and the best teams performing well, it would have been warranted that Michigan State got the 1 seed. They got screwed. And the discussion point that I think people are having is the committee correct? Because in essence, what people are observing is the Big Ten basically got shit on by the committee, and there's no respect for the level of competition in the Big Ten when 3, not 1, not 2, 3 ACC teams make it as a 1 seed.
What doesn't make any sense is the Big Ten has 8 teams in this tournament. 8. The most by any conference. So if you're going to look at the team that won the Big Ten regular season, as well as won the Big Ten tournament, and not consider them one of the best teams when you've got 8 other teams or 7 other teams from their conference in this tournament, what are you telling us? What are you telling us? Because whatever is coming out of your mouth doesn't make sense. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't comprehend. I just don't understand. You could make the argument Michigan State deserves Virginia seed. You could totally make that argument. And if you look at it, there's a very good Tennessee team there, right? So Michigan State's not going to get the cakewalk because I'm assuming most people would make the argument that Michigan State doesn't deserve it to be as easy as, say, a Duke or say a North Carolina. All right, I understand that. I get it. Well, they would have a very tough Tennessee team there. You also have Villanova there. You've got Wisconsin, Purdue. Those teams all are very familiar with what Michigan State does. It's just the way that the committee did this screams that they do not take into consideration what happens either late in conference championship games, or the conference championship game doesn't mean jack squat because Gonzaga, who lost to St. Mary's and lost handily. St. Mary's handled Gonzaga. I watched that entire game. St. Mary's handled Gonzaga in that game, yet Gonzaga gets rewarded with a number 1 seed. It doesn't make any sense.
And also, too, you realize, okay, there's, factors in regards to TV and locations and stuff like that. But if it were to work out, if you would have placed Michigan State on the other side of the bracket, you could have had Michigan State Duke in the final.
You could have Michigan State Duke in the final if Michigan's lucky enough to get there because they've got a very favorable seeding.
Michigan State, North Carolina in the Final Four. Money.
Yeah, there's so much more you could have did.
And so that's the point of frustration is that, most Michigan State fans don't believe that the matchup with Duke and Zion Williamson is going to be favorable. But there's a chance. I mean, it's not a 0% chance because Duke has lost. There's a blueprint. North Carolina, Gonzaga got them. If Duke struggles a little bit.
But hold on 1 second. How many times has Izzo beat
once
Krzyzewski?
Once. One whole time. So that's the other reason why everyone's like,
Coach K's got Tom's number all day.
They have better talent. It's Duke. They're the number 1 overall seed, so it's not like it's a big issue unless they get like jail sexed. But Zion Williamson, the strategy would be let him go off for 40 and the rest of the team for 20, and you score 70. That's what you got to do is limit everybody else. Let Zion get his, and you got to keep up. So there's a chance, there's a blueprint. If they grind it out a little bit, maybe Zion gets into a little bit of foul trouble, and then you have that chance because Matt McQuaid, if they can just step up 5% more, McQuaid, Tillman, Goins, and he'll be an X factor, and Cassius Winston. Winston has that X factor mentality.
You're talking about having this team step up 5% more.
Completely. That's what I have to take.
This is a team that if you watch the Big Ten championship game, Michigan essentially controlled that game up to the final 2 minutes.
But Michigan State was able to ramp it up, and Cassius Winston,
choked it away.
Despite having an injury, ramped it up in the second half and got inside and broke through that defense. Did you see how many times he got inside and made some big shots?
But you want this team to amp it up even more when Look, this is not a very good Michigan team.
No, but that's what it would take. That's what I want, because in order to face and the level of respect that I have for Duke, I don't think Michigan State can show up with a B performance and win.
Oh,
They'll get smoked.
Absolutely not.
And what happens
not.
yeah, exactly. What I'm, obviously in several podcasts that I've ranted and raved about, what happens, and even we saw it versus Michigan. They turn the ball over, long 3 to 4 minute scoring droughts. They look discombobulated on offense.
Early in that game, watching it, they looked so helter-skelter.
Oh, man, yeah.
They looked frantic. They would get the ball, and it was like hot potato. Okay, who wants it next?
Yeah.
Okay, no, jack a shot. Okay, get a rebound. Okay, kick it back out. Who wants the ball now? Pass it out. Take a shot. Okay, rebound.
Yeah,
it was like so.
Yeah.
Everything was moving 1,000 miles a minute, and it's like, just slow down a little bit. It's going to be okay.
As a Michigan State basketball supporter, that's the thing that makes you pull your hair out, and that's why I have none left, is that Michigan State,
But you look good, bald.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You're sexy.
When they're thriving on all cylinders, when everything's going, they look like the best team in the country. But at the same time, in the same game, they can look like the worst team in the country that can't even get the ball in bounds. And so that's the frustrating part about being a State fan is, at certain points in games, you don't know who's going to show up and what's going to happen. And the level of consistency that is sometimes not there is super frustrating as a fan and supporter. But versus Duke, you're going to need everything firing. Matt McQuaid can't miss three-pointers in a row. Cassius Winston has to be involved, and he's the X factor along with Goins. If they can get it going and step their games up, I'd be entertained by that game, Duke, Michigan State, where they're both playing well.
Oh, I think it'll be a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
I think having Nick Ward back
that was awesome.
Helps if you go up against Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, of course, this is projecting weeks ahead of time.
Yeah.
Michigan State still has to get out of the first weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember there being a radio pundit who said something about them possibly losing this game to Bradley.
Yeah.
And then maybe having a dumpster fire of a game against a very good Louisville team and maybe half-hearted Minnesota team here.
And Michigan State did lose to Louisville earlier this year on the road, so Louisville has a victory already versus Tom Izzo. And nobody would be surprised. I think everybody would laugh.
Michigan State might not get out of that first weekend, and that radio pundit might have known what he was talking about, but I don't know.
You said first round.
I did say first round.
I
said first weekend, and then I said first round, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with first round.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take the hottest take.
I'll take some, too. I said
let's go with the hottest take you said.
And look at that bracket, though. Just now that I'm looking at it even more, look at that bracket with Virginia. I mean, the number 2 seed's Tennessee.
Yeah.
They would have been awesome.
Yeah.
It would have been a great place.
I mean, does Purdue scare you?
No.
No. Does Wisconsin scare you?
No.
Not really.
Right.
Old Miss, Oklahoma? Hell no.
They just
Kansas State?
Yeah.
UC Irvine might win that game.
Okay, so how surprised were you that Michigan got placed with Gonzaga in the West?
I was amazed. I for one, I was annoyed where Michigan State was put, right? And then I was even more annoyed where Michigan was placed. And I'm a Michigan fan, right? But I hate how non-Michigan fans, right? Guys like you, other people who are State fans, and other people who just like to shit on the Block M, I get annoyed at how they talk about this favoritism that Michigan gets. And it's seen here. Like, honestly, it is blatant as can be. You get put with a con artist of a number 1 seed with Gonzaga.
Right.
And you get placed as the number 2 seed? Like, how? It made no sense. And, like, look, everybody in the Big Ten has a bad loss this year. Everybody does. Michigan lost to Penn State. Penn State's horrible, guys. Absolutely horrible. On top of that, Michigan lost to Michigan State 3 times. How are they going to be equal seeds? How? On top of that, how is Michigan State going to be put in a tougher bracket than Michigan? None of it makes sense to me. It's like bizarro world. I legitimately thought after the game was all said and done, and kind of taking a few minutes to calm down and to reflect on everything, I was like, all right, cool. Michigan's probably going to be a 3 seed. I could totally see a 3 seed. Be a 3 seed, maybe in the Midwest, maybe in the South if they want to force them to travel a little bit. I could see that happening. And you can't make any bones about that. You can't argue that. How are you going to argue that? I think if you were a Michigan fan, you totally thought 3 seed at the very, very worst, right? 4 seed. But I didn't think they were a 4 seed at all. Thought solid 3. Not the best 3 seed, definitely not the worst, somewhere in the middle there. And yet they come out as a 2 seed, and a 2 seed in arguably the most favored bracket. I mean, look at who's in this bracket. Texas Tech might give this team the hardest go. That might be the hardest route that Michigan's going to have to a Final Four.
Right. And I think that Vito, pay attention. He's going to drop some knowledge. He's going to do a special NCAA tournament preview podcast on this very network, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. He's not poo-pooing the next matchup potentially if Michigan advances past Montana. He has, and a lot of people do, have a lot of respect for what I think is going to be a sleeper team.
Don't say
I think Nevada.
Shut up.
Listen, they're 29-4. They had a run. They have, an interesting situation in which they made the Sweet 16 last year. The majority of the team are seniors, and they have a bunch of huge guys that can rebound and play defense. So the recipe's there if they perform, that they can do the similar things that Michigan State did against Michigan. So, Vito, and not to spoil it, and he'll tell you why, Vito has Nevada advancing past Michigan. Michigan, he has them one and done.
Really?
He has them losing to Nevada.
Wow. So I thought going into Sunday, I thought Michigan was probably a Sweet 16 team. Just looking at the way they're built, looking at how they're constructed.
You're not scared of the Martin brothers?
No.
You're not scared?
No.
No respect?
No.
29-4, 15-3 in the Mountain West?
No. It's because it's in the Mountain West. Look at the conference that some of these teams play in, right? I mean, it'd be like me and you picking up basketballs and going to Maddie and Olivia's school and being like, all right, let's hoop, girls. Like if we don't house them, what are we doing? Do you know what I'm saying?
It's going to be a tough game. Remember, the second game last year, and another team that many people are expecting to maybe make a run is number 3 seed Houston. Remember last year's game where it took a miracle shot for Michigan to advance. Remember, they did struggle in last year's tournament. That was a miracle. And many people will say Houston learned from that and are poised to make a run this year. And so
Houston's a team you need to watch out for.
Okay.
Houston definitely is a team that I think you need to look out for. I think you need to pay attention to.
So how far you got Michigan going? What do you think about their run? And do you think that if it does shake out where they do face the number 1 seed Gonzaga, do you have them advancing? What do you got?
Yeah, so as I was sitting down filling out my bracket, and this is what is disturbing to me, right? Because I think we both agree Michigan State is the better team. Obviously, 3 games. They've waxed the floor with Michigan. 3 games, right? They beat them. They beat them in the regular season twice, and they beat them when it all counted in the Big Ten tournament for the championship. So Michigan State is the better team here. And you would think Michigan State, I would have them going further in a bracket. But when it's all said and done, the first bracket I filled out, and I'm going to be doing multiple brackets because we've got
the listener challenge, your own stuff. Multiple.
We've got 100 other things going on here with brackets. So the first bracket I sat down and filled out, and it was for Big Drew and Jim's radio show. And you guys can go get involved in the Benton Baker bracket challenge and check that out. Just go to ESPN 961, and it's right there at the top. Just click on it and join. If you win, you get free Tiger tickets. They're going to take care of you. These are sweet seats. Going to be sometime in May, I believe you get the tickets for. So it's going to be when the weather's nice. You're not worrying about the rain, the snow, the cold. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So they're taking care of you. All right, so go enter, go play. In this, the show hosts have a little something riding on it. Whoever loses, whoever is the loser out of the 4 of us, whoever has the worst bracket out of the 4 of us, has to get their face painted like a tiger and do the entire show with their face painted. And I'm all about that. You already know I'm cool with that.
Nice.
So it's a nice little twist on it. Plus Costa doesn't want it, so it means everybody wants it. Because if Costa doesn't want it, it's got to be good. Anyways, the first one I did was for that, and I had Michigan State losing to Duke, but I had Michigan making it to the Final Four, face Duke.
Okay.
And same thing, right? I struggled with it so much. I was like, I don't believe they're a Final Four team. I really don't believe they're a Final Four team. I think Texas Tech is going to give them a little bit of a headache and going to give them fits, but I had them squeaking by Texas Tech.
That'd be so great for Duke to go Michigan State, Michigan,
right,
to get to the final game. Come on now.
I honestly, I was like, you know how much history is there between all 3 of those schools?
Yeah.
Both those schools and Duke, it's absolutely insane how much history is there. But I was like, shit, are you for real? They can get to the Final Four? When a week and a half ago, I was like, they're a Sweet 16 team, and you're lucky. You're lucky if they're a Sweet 16 team, But the way the bracket kind of played out, and this is what makes me so upset about where Michigan State got placed. And again, not a Michigan State fan. I'm a Michigan fan. Michigan got such a favorable draw, I could see them getting to the Final Four. They have to get by Texas Tech, then they got to get by Gonzaga, and I can see them getting by Gonzaga. I don't think Gonzaga's – I don't believe Gonzaga's that good. I really don't. So I have them making it to a Final Four. How far do you have both these teams making? Have you done a bracket yet?
I filled out a bracket. One? Yeah, I filled out a bracket. Now, like I said, with Michigan State, they could lose as early as Thursday. 2:45. They're hobbled a little bit. They could play bad. Obviously, they're a 19-point favorite. I do think they'll advance.
So you don't believe that, right?
No, I don't think so. I think when it all, shakes out, Michigan State's a better team, and they'll probably get to the matchup versus Duke. I have them losing to Duke. My fandom tells me that they can compete and make it a good game, but I got them losing to Duke. I feel like Michigan State's going to play well. They got a team that can rebound and play defense, all staples of what you need to have success in the tournament. They got to execute. I think McQuaid has stepped up. Goins has emerged. Nick Ward coming back, playing healthy with a little bit of rest behind him is great. Cassius Winston, I think, can step up and take this team to the next level. He has that it factor. There's a special momentum now that they have playing for their fallen brother Aarons and Langford. So I like what I see. I like that the setup is there. No superstars, no divas, nobody complaining about their time on the court. Just go out there, make your shots, play defense, and handle your business. And so when you can rebound and you got Tillman, now the X factor is we always look at in tournaments, sometimes people need to step up. And Tom Izzo in the game versus Michigan just laced into Kithier because he came in and made some mistakes. That guy can be a guy that can come in and handle his business as well as Foster Lawyer. If those two guys can step up, then hey, maybe you can make a deep run. I have Michigan, and I'll put it down because I trust Vito and because I want to. I'm going to have Michigan
because I want to.
I'm going to have Michigan losing to Nevada. I want it to be a heartbreak. Now, the two teams that could, make a run and have a significant amount of wins are in the same region as Michigan, Buffalo and Nevada. The Bulls of Buffalo are 31-3, 16-2 in the MAC. They, have stunned teams in the past. Last year, in fact, they stunned Arizona in the first round as a 13 seed. So you got to, I know that we all looked at it initially and said, oh, it's a puff region in terms of the quote-unquote named teams. But there are some teams that if they, like you said, if they can get going, Texas Tech, Buffalo, Nevada in that region, and then you got Gonzaga. So I look at it and I say, for me, the way this bracket's going to shake out, if you want to probably do well, pick a lot of the favorites. I think this is a tournament where there's not going to be a lot of upsets, not a lot of Cinderellas, but the couple that I would look at is probably Buffalo, Nevada, Kansas State, and maybe Florida State are the ones that have kind of popped out to me as teams that could make runs. But the way I'm going to fill out a bracket, to be honest, I just might go a lot of favorites along the way and see what happens. But my two teams in the finals are going to be Duke and North Carolina, with Duke winning it all.
Yeah, I've got Duke and North Carolina in my first bracket I filled out too, and I've got to be in a close game. But some Cinderellas out there, some teams that I think could bust your bracket early. A team like Yale. All right, don't sleep on Yale. They're going up against LSU. Now, this is more of a matchup-based situation, especially for Yale in the very first game. Now, LSU's head coach is under indictment, I guess. He's arrested. All kinds of stuff going on for taking money and bribery and just doing things the wrong way in college basketball. So LSU doesn't even have their head coach right now. On top of that, Yale is a very good team, 22-7, put up roughly 80 points every single game, almost hit 50% from the field. That's incredible. That's awesome. Whenever I get kind of jammed up and I'm not sure which team to pick when it's going to be a close game or if it's a little bit closer than I'd like, I always look at three-point percentage because the way basketball has evolved, there's so much more emphasis put on the three-point shot. From three, Yale hits 37%, and they usually grab almost 39 rebounds a game. So this is a team who has no problem jacking it up and crashing the glass to go and get a rebound. So I think Yale's a team that could really make some noise, especially that first weekend. On the other side of the bracket, there's another team who's this is a 12 seed here, and it's Oregon. Oregon's got Malik Bull's they've got Bull, who he's like 7'5", 7'7". He's huge, ginormous, right? And what's the best part of Wisconsin's offense?
How the fuck would I know? I don't follow Wisconsin. I follow Michigan and Michigan State, and that's about it. And then I read a bunch about all the other teams and things like that. Who is it?
It's Ethan Happ. So okay. Ethan Happ hasn't, at least up until the point where I think Michigan played them their second time, hadn't attempted a basket or a field goal outside of the paint. So this is a guy who earns his money and earns his money. Now, this is the best player on Wisconsin's team. Makes all of his bread and butter playing next to the basket. When you're going up against a guy who's got a height advantage on you, who's like 7'7", and is a blocking machine, good luck. So I think Oregon has a real good shot to get out of that first round and then make some noise going on later on in the bracket here. I mean, after that, they're either going to play Kansas State or UC Irvine. So depending on how that shakes out, again, UC Irvine is a team that could upset Kansas State. I could see that happening. So you've got another team that's upset prone. I think Seton Hall is a good team. I could see them causing issues for your bracket, especially that very first day. I don't see them getting past Kentucky after that, but that first day, I think they could cause some trouble for you. Another team that I think you need to watch out for, Murray State. Murray State seems to be the heartthrob team that everybody's falling in love with right now. All right, and there's a good reason. There's a lot of good reasons here why. All right, this is a team that scores a lot. They hit three-pointers with a good clip, and they are efficient with the basketball, generally scoring roughly 50% of their shots. All right, so this is another team who can make things difficult for you, especially that first day and then into that second day, making it all the way to the Sweet 16. So you're going to want to watch out for those teams. There is a smattering of Cinderella stories here spread out across these brackets that make things really, really interesting. Now, I think you're right when you say, and I believe you have all the number one seeds making it to the finals.
I'm looking at it and I go, okay, because it's going to be tough, I would say if there would be a number one seed to fall, I might go with Tennessee. I might include Tennessee in there, a solid number 2 seed. Virginia, just for me, doesn't feel like a team ready, especially after last year, to take that next step and emerge. But a lot of people have them going on. Currently in my brackets, I do have all 4 number 1 seeds advancing. Duke, Carolina in the final. My tiebreaker I put at 145. And I do think that I will tinker a little bit as the day progresses, as I read a little bit more, get more into it, see what other people are doing as well. But I would say that if a number 1 seed were to fall early, the earliest seed would be the earliest team that would fall is Virginia.
Oh, absolutely. Look, Tony Bennett's teams in the tournament suck. They're absolutely horrible. He has made it, I think, past the first weekend once. He usually loses early. This is the same guy. Remember how everybody's like, oh, no number 1 seed has ever lost to a 16. Oh, wait.
That happened last year.
That was Virginia last year. They suck when they get into the tournament. That's why I don't understand how they're a number 1 seed. Drives me nuts. I don't know how far Virginia's going to get, but I do not see them making it to a Final Four. I don't trust Tony Bennett. I don't trust the Cavaliers. I don't think it works out for them at all.
All right, so I wish everybody good luck in their brackets. You still have an opportunity to join the Detroit Sports Podcast bracket. A lot of people entered this year that are brand new. I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely. Check it out. It's always a good deal. We always have some kind of surprise prize for you.
Yeah, surprise. You know, we definitely want to reward those that do a good job, maybe get you on the air, tell us a little bit about your strategy, promote whatever you want. So it's fun. I do like that. It's a growing thing. Every year we're adding new people. And so the more we do it, the bigger it's going to get. And it's going to be fun. I think that brackets, filling them out are fun. And I like that we got some new women entering in this year. And it's going to be a fun time all the way around. How are you going to experience Thursday and Friday? Obviously, you're going to be working. And so you're going to have a good opportunity to have the TVs on and listening on air to the breakdowns. The Michigan State game will be going on smack dab at the beginning of the radio program that you produce. So it's a good time for you. I got to work, man. Unfortunately, Thursday, Friday are my busy times. The TV will be on here, but unfortunately, I'll have to be checking with the 10 minutes that I have between every hour to check in what's going on. Please, Michigan State, don't ruin my day. And of course, the other part too, the part that I was pissed off about, Michigan's game is at 9:30. The whole country can watch it, enjoy it. Everybody can watch it. Michigan State, 2:45, where those of us at work can't get involved in it.
Michigan State's playing what on Thursday? Michigan's playing on Friday night, right?
No, Michigan's, I think, playing Thursday night? Same day.
I'm not sure.
9:30 at night, same day. Thursday.
I know they're playing at 9:30. I just wasn't sure if it was Thursday or Friday.
Yep, it's Thursday.
But I will be
bogus.
I'll be taking most of it in. I mean, it all gets underway at noon, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be at the radio station watching all of that.
Nice.
Most definitely. It's going to be fun. Do you have any like specific rules when filling out your bracket or anything?
No.
Anything special you do? Are you like the one? Do you have the one bracket that is held above all your other brackets? Like that's the one that you.
I've been trying to.
That's it right there.
You know, I think maybe a rule could be that you fill out one bracket and it's uniform. You can fill out multiple brackets, multiple tournaments, but you fill out one official entry. Is I think a fair assessment of what I think could be changed. Now, the something that goes on with CBS, and maybe I haven't looked at the other platforms, but you have the right to fill in your bracket based upon an expert. Like I can just go in and put Seth Davis, click, and his whole bracket shows up on mine in the picks. I don't like that a whole heck of a lot.
I don't like that either.
I think that it should be something where you have to manually pick every single game and have it happen. Don't go with somebody else, because then it makes like a novice go, oh, okay, I'm just going to pick with Seth Davis and then maybe have some success. I think that everybody, you could have, the experts tell their sleepers who they got in the Final Four, but the minutia along the way could be done and could be kept private. But other than that, I love filling out the brackets online. I have my first printed bracket that I did before you got here. I'll fill it out, and we'll have some fun with it.
I find it weird when people go to the championship game and they put put the one team that they think is going to win it all there, and they put the other team who they think is going to win it all there, and then they work backwards. That's weird to me how people do that. I don't understand it. I generally start when I do my brackets. I start in the upper left hand corner. I work my way down, and then I go over to the right hand corner and I work my way down, and then I start working everything across to the middle. It's just I don't know why I do it that way. I just do it that way. And like I said earlier, the one rule I think I hold true to, and it's just because of how basketball is evolving, is whenever I get to a point where I'm not sure who I think will win this game, I look at who shoots better from three, and I take that team. Just because most of these games, especially in the tournament, they're so damn close, right? They usually come down to one or two made or missed buckets, and with 4 seconds left, you're down by 2. It happens all the time. Guy will hit a three-pointer. I mean, if you're a Michigan fan, you remember Jordan Poole last year, right? I mean, that's the reason why he takes awful shots this year. That's why he comes up over half court and he's like, oh, let me just launch this. There's nobody in front of my face. I'll just throw it up there. It's all because he hit one shot in the tournament. So look at the three-point to help guide you if you're confused or you're not sure. Other than that, I don't really have any rules. I'm not a big rules guy when it comes to the tournament and when it comes to filling out brackets and sheets. I always find it funny when guys get bent out of shape when you've got like multiple bracket guy, and then he's got
about it, because
18 different selections. Like,
think about it.
That's my dad. My dad is multiple bracket
it
guy.
Makes it hard because you're like, oh, I got Michigan losing Nevada. Oh, but in 4 other brackets, I got Michigan in the Final Four.
Yeah, but it's
not fun.
That's part of the fun of it.
I'm going to fill out one official bracket and maybe enter it into multiple situations, but I'm not going to go and do that. It makes it easier for me to go, okay, this is my bracket. One bracket filled out across different platforms, and that's it.
That's why you're a loser across multiple platforms.
Well, and here's the best part. I think I'm not entered. I'm not entered into any money.
You have Michigan State winning any of these?
No way at all.
You're not going to just do one for Michigan State to win, just in case.
Nope.
Like that's your fan bracket.
No, I'm. I said on a podcast, I think that Michigan State, and I said on the air that Michigan State will defeat Duke, but that's just being a fan. No, I don't see it happening. I mean, how rationally can you say Michigan State can beat Duke when they've won 1 out of 12 contests? It's not. And then they got the best player in the world.
It's true.
The overall number 1 draft pick,
and they have the number 2 overall draft pick.
Yeah,
RJ Barrett. So
they just got a better team. So nothing wrong with that. So we'll look at it. I can't wait to see how this tournament shakes out. If Duke wins it, more of the same. But we'll see what happens. Maybe
is it
Duke
really more of the same?
Duke's a powerhouse. Do they got what? 5, 6 titles?
No, I get their powerhouse.
5,
but
more rings for them.
I feel like Duke is always that team. Like, at least for me, right? And I stopped doing this a few years ago because I always had Duke in my Final Four, and then Duke would crap the bed sometime around the Sweet 16, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm not putting last year. I refused to put Duke in my Final Four. Refused to.
Yeah, that was the dumbest thing you did, right?
No, maybe it was. I don't know. No, because when it was all said and done, it was Villanova versus Michigan, which I had Michigan losing in, I think, the Elite 8.
Okay.
But I don't know. My bracket was shredded after weekend 1. So good luck.
We're going to take our first break, and then we're going to come back and discuss some things with the Red Wings, Pistons, and the big news of the week, arguably the biggest news for the Detroit Tigers, Michael Fulmer. Well, if you listen to Doc and Jock, we talked about it. We debated it. We talked to scouts.
A couple years ago.
We
were ahead of the damn curve, baby.
It's crazy. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Doc here. I want to tell you about a great sponsor of the network, the Motor City Pawnbrokers. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality brand name new and pre-owned merchandise. With locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren, their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information, if you're new to the pawn game, if you're not exactly sure how it works, go visit MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. Trust me, it's not the same as it was before. It's way more mainstream. Obviously, the professionals there, they care about their customers. They want you to have a good experience. Definitely check them out. There's 4 locations all across Metro Detroit. Go visit their website, MotorCityPawnBrokers.com. All right, cuz, we got to get some things off our chest here because there's a lot of things, interesting nuggets in regards to the other teams outside of the Detroit Tigers. I first want to hit with this. Were you bummed out that Blake Griffin took advantage of this new concept, load management, in a game after the Pistons defeated Toronto, swept the season series? You go to Cleveland and you sit Blake Griffin and they end up losing to Cleveland? Were you mad, or were you like, yeah, I get it. His numbers have dipped and he's tired. He's wore the fuck out. But it did cost them a little bit, and I don't know. Are they trying to position themselves to face Toronto? I kind of got this weird feeling where if they do face Toronto, they'll get swept. I still don't think that the Pistons in a playoff situation have enough to really, compete with the top of the East. I don't know. It's just skepticism. I did see it, all 3 games in person. They have been able to dominate, and Andre Drummond has stepped up, Reggie Jackson. But it just, until they do in the playoffs, I'm still skeptical. But for the fans right now, seeing what the Pistons are doing, that was a bad loss to a Cleveland team because arguably they're tanking and they're in search of the number 1 overall draft pick, and that's a bad loss on the road. But I kind of looked at it like a scheduling loss, back-to-back. You just had an emotional game versus Toronto. I mean, even Shane Norling on our network, he bet the money line on Cleveland. I probably would have done the same thing if I was the betting type. It's just sometimes in the NBA, it's a scheduling loss. They were willing to do it.
Yeah.
Well, didn't seem like a big deal.
So, I don't understand load management, right? What is load?
It's just rest.
It is. It's a dumb name, and it is rest. What I don't get, right, is you've got a schedule that is coming up where you have essentially guaranteed losses, right? There are games that you are not going to win. Blake Griffin against the Cavaliers makes all the sense in the world to play him, especially when you need to get wins to help strengthen.
But he's
your
tired.
Seating.
He's noticeably tired. His shooting's off.
That's fine.
He's not playing well.
That's fine. You don't need to play him the entire game. He doesn't have to give you 30 minutes.
Right.
He can go out there and give you 15 in a spot. Like, hey, Blake, we're down by 3. Can you go out there and play for 5 minutes? Sure, coach. Put me in. He's going to go out there and play. And then you know what? The following, you're going to have a day off, right? Because it's a back-to-back. You're going to have a day off. And then you give him the next game off. So now he's got 2 days off. I bet his legs feel better when you bring him back after the next day off. So now he's got 3 days off. You're going to plug him in. I bet he goes out there and gives you everything he's got, and it's better. I understand when guys get tired. I totally do. This was my big concern with Cassius Winston. I thought he was going to get tired. Apparently, he's the Energizer Bunny. The guy found the magic elixir. He can go all day. All right? I get it. I don't understand why you bench your best player against a team that you need to beat or that you should beat to help boost where you're at as far as your playoff seeding goes, right? Unless you, like you said, you're trying to get to Toronto, that's who you want to play, which I don't think is a very good idea. I'm not sure how you feel about Kawhi and the Toronto Raptors, but I don't want to see them. Not in that first round.
I'd rather see Indy. That'd be the matchup where you go, go down there, have some beers, and we'll handle business.
Let me put it like this. The matchup against Indiana would be so awesome. There is so much hate that is bubbling underneath the surface between these two teams. It is very reminiscent of that 2000, I think it was like 2002, 2003, and then into that 2004 season where the Pistons were starting to get good, and Indy had already been there for a minute, right? They had Jermaine O'Neal, they had Steven Jackson, and they had guys, and Reggie Miller was still there. They had guys on this team, and for some reason, it just didn't seem like Indiana could ever really piece it all together to kind of get over that hump. And the Pistons were coming on. And the Pistons set their eyes on Indy. Like, we got to take them out. Like, that's the team. We can get by them. There's not too many teams in the East who are going to be able to grab us and hold us down. And it was like a 2 or 3 year build all the way up until you had the Malice at the Palace. And after that took its toll on Indy. Because after Malice at the Palace, Indy totally went into a box and just kind of hid in the corner while Detroit got stronger off of it, and that helped catapult them and propel them to their championship that year. Go back and look at it. And you have something similar here now. I want to draw the parallels. You've seen it in, I think it was their last game that they played, where you had Andre getting shoved around and tripped. You had Blake getting bullied. It's there. The vitriol is there. I think this would be a great matchup. That's who I want to see in that first round.
I don't like to root against the teams in town, but every time the Wings get 2 points,
why not?
I just kind of grit my teeth and go, you're right there. You're on the verge of losing. You're on the verge of being the odds-on favorite to land Jack Hughes. But then they go on a 2-game winning streak and they get points. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, you know what? Just go all the way with it. Finish the job. Go out there and lose. You've lost to Tampa Bay. You played a bad game there. Fine. I wasn't even upset when you lost to them and you had the lead. I was like, good. Keep it going. Every loss, it helps the Wings. And they go out there and they win their last contest. All right, fine. But then the news that kind of was released on Tuesday was a little bit fuddling to me in that you're right in the middle of a tanking operation. What value does really Jimmy Howard have? Just let him go to greener pastures. And if you're Jimmy Howard, why the fuck are you signing with the Red Wings for one more year?
Because I love the Wings.
It doesn't make any sense.
I want to be here.
I just think that guy is right now in the NHL the number one prime guy that would benefit from a different venue. I think his game could improve. It renewed passion. I think he could be a Stanley Cup winning goalie on a different roster that isn't full of young characters and things like that. So I'm like, what? So for me, thumbs down on the signing of Jimmy Howard. I just think that complete the rebuild, go all the way, tank this year and next year, and start the process off of after next season, you blow out the head coach, you bring in the next guy, you start the regime, the next wave of the Detroit Red Wings, the next chapter with everything new. I just think the Wings could use a new goalie, and I don't think it needs to be Jimmy Howard.
The thing that bothers me about the Wings going out and extending Jimmy Howard another year, it's just the price tag. They're going to give him $4 million again. That's what it's rumored to be. I understand that he's worth a certain dollar amount. I just don't feel like he should be making $4 million. That's what it kind of comes down to me. It comes down to me as, right? The thing with the Red Wings they're stuck, right? Because they had all these goalies that were in the pipeline, but none of them really panned out. Jared Crow didn't work out. They had a couple other guys that really didn't work out. Peter Mrazek was supposed to be that guy, but it seemed like Peter Mrazek had a little bit of an attitude, so he ended up getting shipped off. So you're in a spot now where you have zero goaltending in this organization. There's nobody who's going to come up and save you. Do you remember when Jimmy Howard was young? That was the talk. Oh, Jimmy Howard's going to be great. Jimmy Howard's the savior. Jimmy Howard's going to be that guy. I don't think Jimmy Howard's ever really been great, but he's been a solid goaltender. He's been steady. As much as a lot of Red Wing fans don't want to hear that, he's been steady. Did he get overpaid on his last contract? Probably. Should he have been paid a little bit less? Probably. Should have been for a few years less? Probably. Could Ken Holland have done something better to get this organization in a spot to be able to move on from Jimmy Howard? You bet your ass he could have, and he didn't. So that's why we're here. So now you're going to give him an extension for another year because you don't have any other options. You have no other choices. That's part of the reason why I wanted them to trade him away at the deadline, because you get something back in return for this guy. And he's already come out and said, I want to be here. I don't want to be anywhere else. He was going to come back to you anyways. And you could have probably got him on a sweetheart deal because he didn't want to go play anywhere else. So why the hell would you keep him? It made no sense. This is, again, Ken Holland being loyal to guys that he doesn't need to be loyal to veterans when you're not necessarily getting what you're worth. I had no problem with Bernier being your goaltender the entire season. I'm fine with that. Again, lose for Hughes, right? Put Bernier in. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah, it's just
I just don't like paying him $4 million. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It just shows the flaws in Ken Holland and what he's done recently.
Yeah. All in all, some people are skeptical of this rebuild, but it's nice to see at least Dylan Larkin having a good year, Athanasiou putting the puck in the net. Some pieces, but you need a lot more. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a long, painful process, and that's why a lot of people are really down on the entire Detroit sports scene. It just seems like whenever there's an opportunity for something to go well, when you have a gem like a Michael Fulmer, you get this news. Mm-hmm. And the news that broke, for me, it was really interesting in that I wasn't concerned with the dip in velocity. They did a really good job of spinning it, saying, look, it's early on, it's spring training, he's got to work on his mechanics, he's going to take some time off, and then bam, arm injury. You're like, after a bullpen session, it was released that he got, he experienced some arm pain, and he got a first opinion, second opinion from Dr. James Andrew. After that second opinion, in which Dr. James said, look, you're going to need Tommy John surgery, he went and got a third opinion, and that opinion came back the same thing. And it really is disappointing, but not in terms of the fact that for this year in particular, in terms of the fact if you really want to jumpstart a rebuild, you had an asset that many people, look, you and I obviously read things. We have talked to scouts. We do kind of have a little bit of knowledge about baseball now that we're credentialed media covering baseball. We have taken our time to look at this kind of thing. And scouts told us, like, look, I didn't just come up with it out of thin air. And I said it on this podcast. Scouts have said that his delivery is violent from what they're watching. Professionals. And so with a violent delivery increases the odds of an injury. So that for me causes me to panic. And so I go, okay. Last year people were calling and saying, hey, obviously they didn't make the move because they didn't feel like the value was right. Those that defended the move and said, oh, you got Michael Fulmer, why would you trade him? Because of stuff like this. Mm-hmm. This is something that, unfortunately, if you're a general manager and your, job is to make sure you put the best team possible and you trade away the pieces at the right time, this is a major red flag on Al Avila. It's a major black mark on his record in that he should have made this move. He should have gotten rid of Michael Fulmer, unfortunately. Now, he is now kind of moved into the category of being an injury-plagued player. You got a big concern. Look, Jordan Zimmerman had it. Look at what's going on with him. I just don't want to see in 3 to 4 years, teams tagging Michael Fulmer because of the fact that his arm velocity goes down and things like that. Some will argue that, the surgery can make him even better. And I hope so. I hope that's the case.
A lot.
Yeah, you've seen that, but it's a risk. In what's happened now with Michael Fulmer, it's been a big mistake for Al Avila to not trade him. I think that they could have gotten a couple players that could be producing this year as well as next year. And so my reaction to the news regarding Michael Fulmer was extreme disappointment. I was sitting in my car really bummed out. I'm like, Michael Fulmer was a player that at least could have been a draw this year. Now it's going to be a situation where it could have been a 70-win team instead of 64, but now everybody's expecting a 50 to 60-win team, and it's going to be a season in which you epically tank. So I thought there was going to be slight progression, maybe 6 games, 7 games into the 70 wins category, especially with the talent that they got. Without Michael Fulmer, who steps up? So we'll talk about what the impact is, but for me, I'm just bummed out. I think Al Avila should have made the move. We talked about it. I said it. I started to say it in 2017. I thought maybe they would have did it last year, especially with interest from the Dodgers and Cubs. And especially, like you said, the Dodgers have a minor league system with talent in it. Go out there and make the moves. And so what we're starting to assess is Al Avila is a little too reactionary. He's not bold enough. Decent general manager. Decent's good. Decent can get you a guy that maybe, eventually will have some talent. But is he bold enough? Is he like Trader Dave out there in Boston? Can he make the moves at the right time? It just seems like
Trader Dave.
That's what they call him, don't they?
I love
Dave
it.
Dombrowski. What I'm thinking now, as a result of the way you can assess Al Avila, he's good. He's professional. But that sometimes doesn't get the job done in this, dog-eat-dog world of baseball. Is he cutthroat? Will he make the move at the right time? He got decent pieces for J.D. Martinez, decent for JV, but did he go out there and, hustle somebody? No, it's just kind of like, okay, professional. Is he making moves that are really going to advance the cause? I think he's, getting the team better, but, he's kind of acting like he's got 10 years to do it. And I don't think the fans really want to wait through a 10-year rebuild. And I just feel like you could have jump-started it with making better moves for JD, JV, and Michael Fulmer. It sucks.
I agree with you. Holding on to Michael Fulmer last year, right?
Dang it.
And we talked about this 2 years ago about trading him. You were all about trading him 2 years ago.
It just got a violent delivery.
I was much more hesitant about it. Last year we had a discussion, and I think we both, by the end of it all, by the
trade him, do it.
Yeah, by the end of the Tigers trade deadline, we're like, they got to move him. They have to move him, right? He hasn't been able to give you 165 innings any season that he's pitched for you.
Dang.
And every year that he has pitched for you, he has had some type of ailment, some type of injury. He has spent some time on the DL.
Does that not cause anybody concern?
That's such a mistake to hold on to this guy. And look, it's not just the elbow and the arm. You talk about the violent delivery. He's had 3 meniscus surgeries on his knee. This is a young pitcher. This was going to be his 4th year in the league. And as far as service time goes, it's much less than that. I think it's probably closer to 3 1/4 years. So this is a guy who's already had his surgery worked on and scoped out and repaired 3 different times. Now he has to have his UCL not just repaired, it has to be reconstructed. Like they've got to pull it out and they've got to totally refix it.
12 to 15-month injury.
Because it is so bad. It is so bad that it has to be completely gutted and redone. And it sounds like we're working on a bathroom at this point, but we're talking about a man's elbow. Holding on to Michael Fulmer has set this team back. You could have traded him last year when you had teams that were in pennant chases, and you could have got elite level prospects back. Instead, you decided to hold on to this guy who is your supposed ace. Do you know who your ace of your organization is right now?
Jordan Zimmerman.
Yes, exactly. This is another guy who is struggling coming off of Tommy John surgery and hasn't pitched very well for you. So how are you going to tell me that he's going to be okay and he's going to be stronger when he comes back? It doesn't work the same for everybody. It doesn't. Not everybody's Jabba Chamberlain. Jabba Chamberlain had it done, had a smiley face drawn on his arm. He had it tattooed. It was pretty sweet. It was kind of cool. I liked it a lot. I thought it was funny. It was a great way to make fun of a gnarly-ass scar you had on your arm. Thought it was cool and was cute. He came back stronger. He wasn't as good as he was when he played for the Yankees, but he came back stronger after it, all right? It's not guaranteed, though. Jordan Zimmerman's a prime example of how it doesn't always fix the problems. Just doesn't always fix the problems. And this is where we're at with Michael Fulmer. You should have traded his ass last year. His value would not have been any higher than it was last year. And now after this, you can best believe you'd be lucky to get a bat and a bag of balls for him. Al Avila has botched this yet again.
Sucks, bro. We're all fans. And you're a fan of the Tigers, fan of the Lions, fan of the Pistons, fan of the Red Wings. It's just,
it's bad.
I said snake eyes on Twitter. What do we got to do to get some luck?
Hey, and if you're a Michigan fan, against top 25 teams, you're 7-3 this year. You know who those 3 losses are to? Your freaking rival down the street. So
when
it's
you're
not
a fan,
good.
It's going to hurt.
It's so bad.
In Detroit, it sucks. I'm sorry. There's no relief in sight. All the rookies get hurt. The Lions can't draft.
Yeah, where's Christian Stewart? Anybody tell me?
I don't care about where. Please, Rams, just take them back. It just sucks, bro, because you look at Detroit sports and it just seems like if an organization should go right, left happens. If they should go left, right happens. It just seems like, when Donovan Mitchell's there for the taking, you don't take him.
Nope.
When you want to tank and your team is doing it, they get wins. When you want them to win a game, when you need them to win a big moment, they lose. To get to the playoffs, doesn't happen. So we got to keep soldiering on, buddy. That's the way it's going to be, man. Everybody hurts. Detroit sports. But, you know what? I think we have to, and I have a remedy to make this all better.
I like how you put that.
I think we have to gamble. I think we just got to start making some money on these teams and going, you know what? If we can get smart and eventually in the course of this network that they make gambling legal in Michigan, that we can just go to a sports book and go, get a tip from Shay and go, dude, back to back, drop $100 on the Cleveland Cavaliers money line. I think it'll bring a little bit more excitement.
Shay loves to gamble, doesn't he?
I was going to ask him because
we should have him do a gambling podcast.
Yeah, I thought about that, and I said, you know what? It's taken off, and once Michigan makes it legal, there's an opportunity to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
But I think making some money probably will make it so much better to be a Detroit sports fan. Just bet against the Detroit Tigers, and bet against the Lions, and you might make some money and make this pain go away. But currently, as constructed, Detroit sports is really, really tough, and the only hope we have is college sports. Follow the network going forward, increased Michigan coverage, spring practices around the corner. Jim Harbaugh's talking a big game. Changing it up, brother. It's what he's saying. More tempo. He's changing it up. Let's see if this Gaddis character can actually stop with the run pass situation, can make Shea Patterson actually a little bit more than above average quarterback. Maybe he can make him elite. So it's going to be a fun time, but all in all, we got to find a way to overcome some of this dark cloud situations that happen. Michael Fulmer, dark cloud. But
all day, dude.
Just like the spring now is upon us, the Detroit Sports Podcast will be here to shine the light on the positivity and to bring you guys entertainment. And we're grateful that you guys found us and download the podcast every single week. We greatly appreciate it. Good podcast, sir.
This was fun.
Enjoyed it.
It's depressing.
And cuz we're on the march to 300 ourselves. Shine the light, baby.
Cow, yeah, you're right.
We are close to episode 300. We should start the process of maybe picking a huge guest that we can target, a couple guests maybe that will actually show up here in 6 weeks.
That'd be sweet.
You got a calendar? What's 6 weeks put us at?
6
if this
weeks
rolls along.
puts us at, let's see, 1, 2.
It's going to be in April, end of April, early May. Is it going to be the week of May 5th?
It will be, the podcast will drop on May 2nd.
May 2nd.
Yeah.
Cervezas. All right. 300, baby. May 2nd. May. So what goes on in May? First, we'll have a month evaluation
Of the Tigers.
The draft, bro.
Yeah. It's
Dude.
post-draft.
Post-draft.
Yeah.
It'll
So
be post-draft.
I think the draft is the 25th, so it'd be the week after.
Post-draft recap.
Yeah.
Maybe get the guy that we drafted, tell him, look, bro, sorry, your career's over, bro. Sorry, bro.
Sorry, bro.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John McEnroe. Thank you for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. Follow Adam at Adam RSTROZ, award-winning producer at WDFN.
That's
for
true.
Big
I
Drew
am
and
an
Jim.
award-winning producer now, aren't I?
For a segment that involves somebody else, which is interesting. Involves someone's mama.
Whatever.
Hey, take it when you can get it.
However it works, man. Whatever
right.
you got to do.
See everybody next week. Look forward to it.
It's not over yet, so you can ask me that one next week.
Go Blue, bitch.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me.